am a proud Executive Director of Josiah Quincy Orchestra Program and founder of this group behind me, which is the Summer Street Brass Band, which are made up of all young musicians that I've had the pleasure of teaching since they were literally about this tall, or this tall here, since about 4th grade. And long story short, at the playground one day, literally, I said, hey, what about putting a band together? And they were like, yeah. Jordan was like, I like that logo. We should do that logo. We should call ourselves this. And so all of a sudden, we put a band together, and we've been going around the city performing. Last January, we had the pleasure of performing for the Mayor's State of the City address at Symphony Hall and opening up for that event. So we were really excited to do that, and we've had an amazing run playing some wonderful concerts around the year. Will is not one of my students. I'll just be honest. I found that but Will's a great guy. So we're going to play one more tune for you, a seasonal favorite, Let It Snow. And thank you all so much for having us here at this very special event. Thank you all so much.
I know you can't hear me, but I'm going to start the program. So ladies and gentlemen, can I please have a big hand for the So good evening and welcome to yet another amazing We Are Boston United We Thrive gathering. Can you please do me a favor and just put your hands together for the entire staff at the Office for Immigrant Advancement for the wonderful job they're doing. My name is Patricia Sobalvarro. I am the Executive Director of a nonprofit called Agencia Alpha, and I also serve, I'm not sure what the status is, on the advisory board for the Mayor's Office for Immigrant Advancement. I am thrilled to say thank you, Mayor, for hosting us tonight. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for just being who you are and rocking the house, as you do all the time. So I have to tell you a secret, and I'm probably risking my career as an MC, and I'm probably not going to get invited again next year, but I got a peek at the internal program, and there's some pretty amazing announcements that are going to be made later on today, and you don't want to miss them. But before we hear our speakers, there's definitely some people that we want to acknowledge and we want to thank. Obviously, raise your hand if you were in the part of the workshops. Can you please just demonstrate how much you enjoy and learn from these amazing facilitators? Marcos from the Welcoming America, and Cheryl Hamilton from the International Institute of New England. Yes, thank you, thank you. We also want to acknowledge Blue Cross Blue Shields of Massachusetts and recognize Mr. Andrew Dreyfus for hosting us tonight, the whole day. Thank you so much. As many of us know, the Mayor's Office for Immigrant Advancement has a long history of looking out for immigrants. And I tried to put this in my own words. Their mission says that it's about strengthening our ability as immigrants to be able to integrate all of us in the economic, into the civic, into the social, into the cultural life of Boston. But we know that when Moya invests in our ESOL programs or in our citizenship programs or in any initiatives, we know that it's not done because money comes from heaven, right? They're partners. And many of you are here tonight. And I don't need to remind you that tonight is about accomplishing and celebrating what the mayor is doing through this office, but it's also about raising additional funding so we can continue to do exactly what that theme is all about. Together we thrive. And I'm going to tell you something. I like that word thrive, but I like it more in Spanish. Can anybody tell me what it will sound like? Juntos prosperamos. Juntos avanzamos. So for us to be able to prosper, to flourish, we need to come together. We need to get the best of us so we can continue to do this. So tonight, I ask you, if it's not D, please help us to make this one of the best and most promising fundraising nights for the Office of Immigrant Advancement. Please. That's for them, not for me. That's for Moya and their staff. You know, when I think about the theme, United We Thrive, there are three values that come to mind, how we are all connected, whether you're a nonprofit, you're in business, whatever your journey is. I think of our solidarity that we express to each other. I think about our resilience, and I think about our tenacity to overcome whatever thing comes from the White House. And that's possible when we all come together to prosper, and that's what we're going to be hearing later on from Mr. Andrew Dreyfus and Yusufi and the mayor and so many other wonderful speakers. So tonight, I want to introduce to you a very special person to this office. Andrew Dreyfus is the president and the CEO of Blue Cross Blue Shield of Massachusetts. Mr. Dreyfus leads the company's effort to make quality healthcare affordable and equitable. He previously served as Executive Vice President of the Massachusetts Hospital Association and held a number of senior positions in Massachusetts state government, including Under Secretary of Consumer Affairs and Business Regulation. He is the chairman of the board of the United Way of Massachusetts Bay and Merrimack Valley, and also serves on several boards. But I did something today that I hope I don't get in trouble for. I actually talked to some of his staff, and I said, in a couple of words, or what comes to mind when you think about Mr. Dreyfus? Innovative, caring, a go-getter, and that's the person that you have amongst here. So I'm going to ask Mr. Andrew Dreyfus, please come to the podium.
Good evening. It's great to be here, and I want to welcome everyone to Blue Cross Blue Shield. We've been thrilled to host this whole day of innovation and conversation and dialogue and thinking about how do we make our city even more welcoming and open, and how do we allow our immigrant community to thrive here. I wasn't going to say this, but I was reminded of this when I heard the introduction, that my grandmother helped found one of the oldest settlement houses. It was called the Hecht House in Boston, that helped bring then young Jewish immigrants who were escaping Europe into the city and help them assimilate and accommodate to their new world. And so I feel like I'm just carrying on her work tonight by helping to host you. So I want to first thank Mayor Walsh for being here, for his leadership every day and every night and every morning. And he's, you know, I see him at all hours of the day working on these issues. I want to one other public official with us, State Rep Liz Miranda, you here? Yes. So I'm going to be brief, but we're here tonight because we all know how important immigrants are and refugees to our city. They help make it a healthier city, a more sustainable city, a city that grows and thrives. And at Blue Cross we've learned, and we continue to learn and grow on our journey to realize that the best companies, the best organizations, the best cities are the most diverse and inclusive. And they actually make companies work better, thrive better, and they make cities and communities work better. And we know that every kind of diversity, ethnic, gender, cultural, diversity of thought and diversity of thinking make us be better and make the community stronger. And so we view the immigrants and refugees as an asset to our community, to our business, and to our company. It's incredibly important that we have public officials and leaders and business leaders and colleagues, many of whom are in the audience here tonight, who support the same cause. And so we just want to say thank you to the mayor, thank you to Chief of Health and Human Services, Martinez, who got to go down and see our Innovation Center in action right before he came up here. And I just want to thank all of you for choosing, you honor us by allowing us to host you tonight. Thank you so much.
I was told that I was not going to be led back into my office and if I didn't do a shout out to the Alpha table, so hello Alpha table. I remember maybe 2 weeks or a couple weeks after the El Paso shooting, Mr. Yusufi and I spoke, and I think it was in my office. And I'm going to read his bio, but I have to tell you who this man is and what he has shown to us so far as the director of the Mayor's Office for Immigrant Advancement. I remember him looking into my eyes and saying, "How is your community doing?" A question that so many other people have asked us. But what really struck a note and what I really felt something different was that honesty in his eyes. And that's who we have, someone who cares. His staff, I also asked his staff for feedback, and they told me he's focused, he's caring, he's really into that mentality of wanting to do good for everybody. And I am so proud to be able to present to you Mr. Yusufi Vali. He was appointed by Mayor Walsh as Moya's director in July. Most recently, he had served as the Executive Director of the Islamic Society of Boston Cultural Center, a mosque and community center that serves over 1,500 congregants of 64 different ethnicities, the majority of which with an immigrant background. Before joining the ISBCC in 2012, Yusufi was a community organizer with the Greater Boston Interfaith Organization, better known as GBIO, where he advocated for better education, access to health care for low-income families. He was also a Fulbright Scholar, a Marshall Scholar, and a Bar Fellow. So please give him a big hand.
Thank you so much, Patricia. You guys can hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. This is very kind. For those of you who don't know Patricia, by the way, she's an immigrant from Guatemala who moved here in the 1980s, and she's also co-founder and executive director of Agencia Alpha that does fabulous work for our immigrants in the city, particularly through their accredited legal program, their multi-city citizenship program, and also their community organizing initiatives. Thank you for all your work, Patricia, and I also really want to thank Andrew Dreyfus, Jeff Bellows, VP of Corporate Citizenship and Public Affairs, and the whole Blue Cross and Blue Shield team of Massachusetts. You have been extraordinarily hospitable, and for the venue, the food, there's a number of city folks here. I can tell you every one of them is going to want to use your space now going forward, so just know the asks are coming soon. And I want to thank our generous sponsors. They're in the booklet and on the screen here, and also the elected officials. And I really also want to thank all of you for being here today. I'm one of the newest members of Mayor Walsh's team, and I'm sure a number of you guys are wondering who's this guy. So I just want to give you a brief sense of who I am, and then lay out the direction the city of Boston is headed on immigrant advancement under Mayor Walsh. I'm an Indian immigrant who's proud to call himself Bostonian. As Patricia mentioned, I was previously the Executive Director of the Islamic Society of Boston Cultural Center in Roxbury. And within 6 months of my joining the mosque, the marathon bombing happened. As many of you will recall, the bombing hit us Bostonians hard. I remember so many of us alternating between grief and anger for the victims, for the runners, and for a great symbol of our city. As Bostonian Muslims, like myself, this grief and anger was coupled with fear. The fear of a potential backlash, just like after 9/11, as the bombers called themselves Muslim. But the backlash never happened. I knew this because it was my job as Executive Director of the mosque to connect with the interfaith clergy, political leadership, and the media. It was profound to witness leaders in nearly every sector echoing the same clear message. We would remain united. We would not let fear divide us. We would turn to, not on, one another, including our Muslim neighbors. I cannot describe to you all how proud our city's response to this tragedy made me to call myself a Bostonian. And I'm proud that time after time, we as Bostonians have continued to remain united. Whether after Charlottesville or the Muslim ban, or the Tree of Life Synagogue shooting, or New Zealand or El Paso. And as a side, I have to say, after the New Zealand attacks, Commissioner Gross called me at 7 a.m. in the morning, and our mayor called our senior imam at the same time to express solidarity. And that day, both of them altered their schedules to be at Friday services to express their solidarity for the community. That care and compassion for all of our residents, irrespective of their background, is one of the many reasons that I feel privileged to be part of Mayor Walsh's team. As we head into election season, there will be more attacks. Every time the president feels he's in trouble, he turns on our immigrants to appeal to his base. Given our track record, the mayor, Chief Martinez, and I know that Boston will continue to stand united with our immigrants time after time. You can see the many creative ways many of you have partnered with the city in the past to do precisely this in the accomplishment section of our booklets. But as both the mayor and Chief Martinez challenged me when I assumed the director role of Moya this past summer, they said Boston must lead the way not just in standing united with our immigrants, but we must see to it that our immigrants thrive civically, economically, and culturally, just like the mayor's family has, Chief Martinez's family has, I have, and my family has. This is an ambitious and proactive vision, particularly at a time when it is hard not to be reactive. With continued partnership, and really, as I walked into this room, I mean, I saw universities represented, hospitals represented, unions represented, businesses, city and state departments, and residents of all backgrounds here. With partnership from you all, I'm confident we can meet this challenge because united we do thrive. Yes. Now vision needs both a plan and an investment. Over the last 4 months, my office has worked hard to put together a strategic plan approved by the mayor, which you can review fully in your booklets. And the mayor and Chief Martinez have followed up that plan with investment by adding 3 new positions to my team. So thank you, Mayor and Chief, and I will, it's budget season, so I might be coming back to you both for some more money. I'll now highlight just 4 core initiatives in our plan where we could particularly use your all partnership. The first initiative is telling the authentic stories of immigrants in the public sphere. The president continually frames immigrants as drains on our society and or as criminals because he understands how an issue gets framed in the public's imagination paves the way for the policies that follow. We must continue to inoculate Boston and the region from this inaccurate framing by telling and retelling stories like that of Patricia's, of Darlene's, of the mayor's. We would welcome your creative ideas to work with our immigrant residents, workers, and businesses to amplify their stories, just like we did today with the International Institute of New England Suitcase Stories program for one of our earlier workshops. Second, in partnership with our Civic Engagement Cabinet under Chief Jerome Smith, we plan to launch a 10-week civic education course for 30 emergent immigrant leaders in the summer. This course will teach on important civic values and norms, how the city works, how the budget works, get them meetings with directors and chiefs so that we narrow the equitable access gap. We welcome your ideas and funding to support this initiative. Third, we will reconvene and revamp the Immigrant Advancement Advisory Board. The purpose of this board will be to identify 1 to 2 impactful programs, services, and policies the city ought to pursue in areas of safety and stability of our immigrants, economic integration, civic integration, and cultural integration. It will be composed of the city's diverse sectors, which are represented right in this room. If you or someone you know that's interested in this, please talk to one of my staff here, or myself, or email us at immigrantadvancement@boston.gov. The fourth initiative, and the last one I want to highlight, is one that you have already begun partnering with us on today, supporting our immigrant nonprofits with capacity building training. In my first 90 days, I met with nearly all of our immigrant-led and immigrant-serving nonprofit partners. Time and time again, I heard and saw the need for mentorship for staff, fundraising training, board management skills, strategic planning support, and other capacity building resources, tools that ensure sustainability and growth of an organization. At a time when demand on services and programs, particularly within the immigrant arena, is high, we need to ensure organizations are able to grow. Your support today through sponsorships and ticket sales will fund mini grants of $2,000 to $10,000 to our immigrant-led and immigrant-serving nonprofits to address this critical need. Thank you all once again for your donations in this effort, and please don't be afraid to give more. Thank you all once again for joining us tonight, and I look forward to meeting many of you in the coming months. I will now turn it over to our mayor to highlight the fifth and most critical initiative in the coming year, and also present some really meaningful awards. As you all know, Mayor Walsh has been a leader from day one on the issue of immigrant advancement, from his words that he would be willing to house immigrants in his office, to him showing up at the airport right at the Muslim ban, to his countless public statements on DACA, TPS, and so many other issues. He's crystal clear on where he stands, and I can tell you that's not just publicly, that is privately, because I've heard it multiple times just being in this office for 4 months. It's my real pleasure to introduce Mayor Marty Walsh.
Thank you, Yusufi, and I want to thank Yusufi for making the announcement that he has 3 more people working in the office, because as soon as I said that, Evandra Cavallo texted me, John Barros texted me, and Mitch Shea texted me. And I said, what about me? Chris Osgood texted me, and then they're telling other people outside. So yeah, we got women's advancement, one more. We got Sheila Dillon, yes. You haven't known Sheila. But I want to first of all, Yusufi is amazing, and you heard him speak here today. And prior to him taking this role over, when he worked at the mosque, we spent a lot of time together talking about the way to build relationships up. And I just thought the way that he handled himself and carried himself in what he did in that role was amazing. And then when we had a chance to get him here to Boston in City Hall, we had some candidates. We had a few candidates that were out there, and Yusufi's a guy who can clearly hit the ground running, and he's not shy. And he's not shy with his suggestions, or if he sees something that's happening in the country or something in Boston that's not going right. It's important for him that he's not shy. He'll call me and talk to me about it, or text me, and I'll call him back. So I want to thank him for the incredible work he's done. I want to thank him for his vision and the plan, incorporating immigrants and refugees into all areas of Boston life. Hearing him talking to Jerome Smith, and the importance of that. Civic engagement is that office where all the office and neighborhood service coordinators are working So it's not just gonna be, you know, for the Latino liaison or the Haitian liaison, we're talking every liaison in the city is gonna get an understanding and education on this, and that's important for us. So we're excited to have your leadership, especially in this critical time. Congratulations and thank you. Andrew Dreyfus and Blue Cross Blue Shield, thank you for the space. Thank you for your engagement. Thank you for what you do for our city. You know, Andrew, Patricia talked a little bit about talking to Andrew's employees about his style. I can tell you, as a mayor, before I was the mayor, I knew Andrew. I didn't know him that well, but he is in all the right places at all the right times. He is a believer. Having Andrew obviously help us with the space, but being the chair for this event means so much because he cares and believes for people. So Andrew, thank you and your team that really did today. There's a lot of people from City Hall here that I can mention. I have to give Marty Martinez a shout out, Elton Human Services, because this is your Immigrant Advancement. Chief of Policy, John Barr, Chief of Education, I said. Same thing. Any complaints about traffic, Chris Osgood, Chief of Streets. And then Emily Shea from our Elderly Commission. There's so many other folks here that are here today. Evandro Cavallo, and so many other people. Thank you very much for your work. Representative Liz Miranda, who followed Evandro into the House of Representatives, is another one. She wears her heart not on her sleeve. It's just out there. And I want to thank Liz. I had a chance to go to Cape Verde with Liz. I've had a chance to watch her, and she does the job as a legislator the way it's supposed to be done. She puts people first. Yeah, she knows about voting on legislation, that's important, things like that, but she puts people first and foremost, and she does her job, and she's not afraid, and she's gonna tackle every single problem. I called the other day, she asked me for like 2,000 turkeys, and they said, I'll give you a couple. But I wanna thank Liz for being here. I wasn't 2,000, it was 500. Co-chairs, the organizers, the sponsors, anyone who made tonight possible, thank you very much. Thank you also to Welcoming America and the International Institute of New England for hosting the workshops today. I want to thank you for that. I want to welcome everyone to We Are Boston, the We Are Boston Gala. As Yusufi mentioned, this year's theme is United We Thrive. And as he mentioned also this year, as we head into an election cycle, there's going to be a lot of rhetoric and a lot of nonsense out, anti-immigrant stuff out there. And for the last 2.5 years, I'm proud to say that we stood up and we're going to continue to stand up for our immigrant community so they feel safe. Against the backdrop of national division, Boston continues to stand united and proud of our immigrants. I talk about this all the time. We have 700,000 people that live in Boston. 28% of those people were born in another country. So we are a city of immigrants, and that's something that we need to celebrate. 48% roughly of the people who live in our city are first generation, like I am, like many of us in this room. So pretty much we make up 75% of the city of Boston who's in this room today, whether you're an immigrant or you're a son or daughter of an immigrant. And if you go to the great-grandparents, grandparents and great, we probably are near 100%. So it's important for us not to forget that.
Yes.
You know, something I'm proud of. Many of us in this room have our own immigrant stories. I'm not going to talk, I always end up talking about my immigrant story, but I don't think I have to do that tonight. But we all have our own stories, and it's so important for us not to forget those stories. I was at an event last night with the Greek community, and what they were saying was that the first generation, sometimes it happens, the first generation forgets about the preceding generation. And it's important for us not to forget about that generation, and forget about the struggles they had, and forget about coming to this country for a whole host of different reasons. People came to this country for a lot of different reasons, and they still do today, and we can't forget those stories. We think about our parents and our grandparents. We think about the strength from in those individuals, the strength they had. A 16-and-a-half-year-old girl who lives on the west coast of Ireland, who left Ireland to come to America 3,000 miles away to go to her aunt's house in Norwood and then went to work. You think about that person, the loneliness of the 16-and-a-half-year-old person who came to this country. You think of a 15-year-old boy who left his house in the same part of Ireland and went to a different part of Ireland, is 15 years old, to earn money and send back to his mother and then take a journey over to England with no real family over there. And that family can be any one of us.
Yep.
And you think about what's happened in generations with those immigrants migrating to other parts of the world, to this country, into this great city. Here in Boston, we bring that strength together as we honor these journeys by making Boston a welcoming city for all. As Yusufi said, it's in my blood. This isn't a speech that, you know, I get passionate, really passionate about two things in my life. You talk about labor, I'll get passionate on the microphone. You talk about immigrants, I'll get passionate on the microphone. And those are things that are inside of me. And when I see people in organizations and individuals bullying immigrants and painting them with a brush of criminals and rapists and murderers, that's something that gets all of us angry, but gets me angry, because that's not who they are. I want to take a moment just to thank the Office of Immigrant Advancement. They're here tonight. Would you please raise your hand? They carry out important work every single day. They put their values into action through their free immigration clinics, know your rights workshops, citizenship days, immigration information corners, and just simply being there for somebody that's afraid that calls the office, a friendly voice that knows that they're going to stand for them. I especially am proud of what we launched with the Greater Boston Immigrant Defense Fund, and working across many of you in this room that work collectively together. We launched it in 2017 during the first year of the Trump administration. The White House had already begun the barrage of attacks on immigrants and refugees. We know that. From the Muslim ban to family separation to TPS and DACA to public charge, any support that we can provide on a city level is crucial. These funds help connect families to expect guidance as they navigate these continuing stressful times. And we're going to continue to support that. During the 2-year pilot period, we provided grants to 11 organizations, opened hundreds of legal cases, housed education workshops, and worked with several thousand attendees. Those of you in this room that do that, thank you, because you've been doing this work for a long time. And I want to thank those organizations that are here today. Today, we're proud to announce that we've secured over $640,000 for year 3 of the Greater Boston Immigrant Defense Fund, accomplishing one of these initiatives. This includes an investment by the City of Boston, the city budget, and we have even more funding from additional sources that we're working on right now to continue to build our fund. We want to keep this momentum going. We have to keep this momentum going. We can't take one step back. We need to continue to move forward. We need to continue to offer services for people who need it. We need to continue to make sure the services are there for people that need it as we continue to move forward. This work that we're talking about tonight and the work that many of you do, all of you do in this room, is about keeping families together, protecting our children, and strengthening our workforce and our economy. And we are proud that Boston is the first New England city to invest public dollars like this, in a fund like this. I'd like to... Now I'm following my notes. I'd like to ask the foundation to come up here, who contributed, so we can take a fun photo. And then I'll go back to this minute. So if you're here, the foundation, come on up here. I don't know who's on the foundation. Anybody? Nobody wants to step up? All right, we have one person. We'll take 2 pictures. Come on. You get a picture? Yeah, we'll take a picture. We're not giving
Cindy.
Thank you. In Boston, I'm almost done here. In Boston, we're going to continue to take initiatives and show a way forward. We can't count on November 2020 to explain that these threats are going to end. And even when they do, we still have to undo the damage that was done. I've been in elective office since 1997. In one way or the other, there's always been an attack on immigrants, no matter in different areas. So it's important that we continue to stay resilient and strong. It's going to take time, and it's going to take us coming together as a nation to achieve real immigration reform. There's been a lot of conversation. We haven't had a lot of conversation about immigration reform. We've been attacking immigrants. But in 2020, we need to insist that our congressional delegation and our Senate delegation starts talking about reform that works. and start talking about the 13 million undocumented people in this country and what we're gonna do to move forward. The people that are in our communities and living in our neighborhoods and playing in our sports and worshiping in our churches and working in our buildings, we need to make sure we continue to move forward. We can't stand still for that. When we work together, what we see an incredible system. So I want to thank everyone here, because I think about many of our stories in this country, and many of our stories we can describe as the American dream. Our parents, our grandparents, our great-grandparents came to this country, and 1 or 2 generations later, their grandsons and granddaughters are doing successful things. They're running companies like Blue Cross Blue Shield. They're working in office like the Office of Economic Development in the city of Boston. They're running companies in downtown, building the skyscrapers. They're in powerful places in government to be able to do things. They're a janitor in a building. There's somebody working at a reception desk in the front desk of an office company. It's important that we understand that. What you're doing tonight is helping us achieve that American dream for so many other people. So I want to thank you for that. Lastly, and this is lastly, speaking of 2020, we have another important event coming up, the federal census. We need to make sure that we continue to push that. It's another powerful tool we have to fight back to make sure immigrants are protected. It's a way to make sure that Boston and Massachusetts is able to access funds and representation that we need. We need to work at this collectively, all of us together, to make sure we continue to make sure that we count everyone. We need to let people know that it's safe to be counted. And we need to let them know and stress the importance of being counted. Over the last 3 censuses here in Massachusetts, we've lost a congressional seat. If you look at the Boston delegation, we've lost seats in the House of Representatives and the State Senate. We have an opportunity to strengthen that power. I don't know if we'll get a seat back, but with the influx of people into Boston, Massachusetts in the last 10 years, which is nearly over, I think, over 100,000 people, and the influx of people into the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, we need to make sure that we count every single person. So I ask you to join me in this fight. I ask you to stay connected with us and help us get involved with an immigration group, get involved with an organization to make sure that we know that we make sure that every single person that deserves to be counted gets counted, because we are Boston, and that's what it's all about. I want to thank you all. Now do I go to the awards? All right. Again, before I do the awards, I want to thank the sponsors. Without you, this doesn't happen. I want to thank all the attendees. Without you, this doesn't happen. This is about a recognition. We have Liz Miranda here. I want you to remind the other elected officials that are out there fighting for immigrant rights that there's a great event on Friday night called We Are Boston Gala. And that event recognizes the people that are doing the work on the ground. And we might get up at a podium and talk about all the great things we do supporting organizations, immigrants, but the people that I'm about to recognize and the organizations we're about to recognize are the ones actually doing the work every single day on the ground. So I want you to just pass that along back when you see some elected officials this weekend out in the streets. If you want to say, you can say I told you that. So sorry. The Community Championship Award. The Irish International Immigration Center is Boston's welcome center for immigrants and refugee families. It was founded 30 years ago by a group of immigrants, and since then they've assisted over 40,000 immigrants in building new lives here in New England. This year, the International Immigrant Center was recognized nationally for their advocacy for families and children affected by the federal government's sudden termination of the medical deferred action for immigrants. People should not have to worry about their immigrant status being a barrier to life-saving treatment. It's inhumane and unconscionable. I want to thank the IIC for bringing this issue to light, for advocating for patients and their families. Whether it's legal assistance or wellness and education support, the IIC is a constant and dependable voice for immigrants and refugees from every country. I met this man 24 years ago in my office as a state representative, and back then he was advocating for the immigrant community. When he walked in, I thought he was advocating for the Irish community, and I realized it wasn't the Irish community he was advocating for, it was all the communities he was advocating for, which made me proud. It's my honor to present the Irish International Immigration Center with the Community Championship Award. I invite Ronnie Miller to accept this award. Let's give him a nice round of applause. sideways, you guys, yeah. We'll get us all in. Nice try.
Excited. Thank you. Okay, what's this way, please? Thank you. You got it?
I'll do the other one down here. The next Pride of Boston Award is to announce the next awardee, Veronica Serrato, Executive Director of Project Citizenship. Veronica joined Project Citizenship in 2014 as its first Executive Director. In her first year, she formed a partnership with the city to offer Citizenship Day, the longest such event in New England. This event serves thousands of immigrants with their naturalization applications and screening to thousands more. This year's Citizenship Day was held on September 28th, and we had our highest attendance yet. We had over 800 people in attendance and 430 applicants for naturalization. Moreover, 230 applicants were eligible for fee waivers and saved over $166,000 for filing fees. I want to thank Veronica for her leadership and vision in creating this partnership and bringing these services to the people of Austin. This is her last year as Executive Director, and I want to thank her for all that she's done for our city and our country and for all of the immigrants. It's my honor to present Veronica with the Pride of Boston Award. Unfortunately, she couldn't be here tonight, at least she's here. So, Melanie Torres, Project Citizenship Program Director, is here to accept the award on behalf of Veronica. Okay, take 2 steps this way.
This way, please.
Andrew, I'm the boss here.
I know you are.
For 5 minutes.
My daughter always says, you're not the CEO of this house.
All right. Yeah, no, right again. We're changing the high tech here.
Let's hear it from our law. So, I am next. I'm between you and a glass of wine and a conversation, so this is short and brief. Again, I just want to both thank you as, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Marty Martinez. I'm the Mayor's Chief of Health and Human Services and have the pride, the honor to be able to have the Mayor's Office of Immigrant Advancement within my cabinet. Once again, I just want to thank you for being here and your commitment for the work you do. We've heard the staff be thanked multiple times, but I'm going to do it again. The Mayor's Office of Immigrant Advancement staff continues to do this work every single day to advance our community. So let's please hear it for the Moya staff who's here today. Maybe behind the pillar is Agnes, who does not want to come on and be seen, but thank you, Agnes. She's purposely behind the pillar, so I can't see her. But thank you so much to Blue Cross Blue Shield for hosting us today in this beautiful space. Thank you for that support. But most importantly to all of you, thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for your continued efforts. Thank you for thinking about not just what's happening right now, not just what we're seeing on CNN or MSNBC or Fox if you watch it. But not just what's happening today, but we're preparing and planning and fighting for what needs to happen tomorrow and in the future for all immigrants in our community. So from me to you, thank you for all the work you do. Thank you for continuing to do it. Your donations, your support help us with these capacity building grants. And thank you so much on behalf of not only the city, but the Mayor's Office of Immigrant Advancement. Let's keep up the good work. Thank you so much.
But I need to remind you that tonight is about doing what we are meant to do, to grow together, to flourish together. So please, if you can donate, it doesn't matter the amount. Please take credit cards, cash, whatever it is. Mayra, can you raise your hand? She is willing and able to receive your donations, and happy holidays. Enjoy the rest of the evening. Continue to mingle and get to know somebody powerful, because they need to know you as well. Good night.